And we're good.
Are you doing it?
Yep, we're on.
We're on.
Right after you sitting there
says
talking
recording.
about how it wasn't recording.
It is recording.
Were you 100% certain?
I'm 100% certain.
All right, that's what I like.
Are
to
you
hear.
looking?
I don't
The
wanna
record.
hear- 99 isn't good enough. 100% is what you got to say. Well, welcome everybody. What about it over there, Blake Groom?
How are you, Sheriff?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
It's
What
been a
about
been a busy
Thanksgiving?
week.
You got plans this week?
I do, and part of my Thanksgiving plans is,
Eating.
well, no, I probably need to fix my hair real quick. Listen,
God.
You are
as
dead.
soon,
You're dead.
as soon.
Do you know how many of those he's gotten since
No.
he
You
talked about
kidding
them?
me?
The night I ordered that, the night we talked about it on the show, and I put it on my nightstand, and every time I've come up here, I have forgotten about it, and that is the real deal.
Brother, let me tell you something. You have no idea how happy you just made me by giving me this.
That's the real deal.
Not that I don't have two more sitting on my desk that other people has given to me, but coming
He
from
had
you,
one
coming
mailed
from
to
you,
him?
Coming from you, this is like hands down the best thing anybody's ever got.
Listen, and
You
that
should have
took
bought
some-
him the jacket.
That took some effort because most of the ones out there have the plastic comb insert that goes on the,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a little flip.
That's what I had. That was one of the ones, not me.
The
but
second
my
one that
buddy
was
had.
hand delivered to me to give to you was a nice one
And he
too.
took out the comb part and put in razor blades.
Okay. I guess that
Needless
works
to
too.
say, it got taken up and you never saw it again.
Right?
But no, man, that's awesome. I've got one for both back pockets. Now I can put this one in my jacket pocket.
Yes. I mean,
And I've always
readily
got it. And I'm growing my mullet back.
He won't make it.
I am.
You will not make it.
We got two guests on. We got Jesse Chandler with the district attorney's office, and we got Brittany Spears from the district attorney's office. Don't look so thrilled. How many different looks do you get when somebody says, "Hey, I'm so and so. Nice to meet you. What's your name?" And then you tell them, and they kind of, how many different looks do you get a day?
I mean, I get several looks, several comments, only since I was 5.
So, are you used to it? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, very
Okay.
much so.
All
Very
right.
much.
That's awesome.
Well, it's great that y'all are here. A lot of knowledge and expertise sitting here in the room.
So I got to tell you this story. When we earlier today, because I've been working on this for like a day and a half. I asked him about it, and I got the cold shoulder. I got the zero response back when I texted both of them. I said I sent a text out to both of them. I said, "Hey, would you like to be a guest on the talk show this week?" Nothing.
Yeah.
And look, I don't play the sheriff's card. I don't think I'm hot snot. I don't do that. But I mean, I'm just putting myself.
My
in
face was on there. I doubled
I'm
back
just
to
putting myself
look.
in somebody else's shoes. That when you get a text from the sheriff, it might warrant a fairly quick
I hit the ignore
response.
button.
Especially when it involves the hottest show in town.
But
No offense to that.
well, there you go. That's a great
None
point,
taken.
Captain. So anyway, nothing. So like an hour later, my standard reply is good talk.
I taught you that.
I sent him the good talk text. Then
I
I
taught
get a
that.
him
response.
Okay.
Then it's like the oh, okay.
I have
you
to take
forgot.
credit for that because when he used to ignore me back like 2 years ago before he realized that he can't ignore me anymore when I text him and or call him because I'll just blow him up. But I would always respond with good talk. So now he
Well, hold on.
says
In
it.
their defense, what hours of the day was this?
So he needs to tell you why we didn't
Exactly.
respond
Because
first thing.
these ladies run ragged. I've got to, I've got to have their back here a little. If it's within the hours that's in my head.
I know. And they're important. I get that. They have an important job.
How many hours passed before you said the good talk?
An hour.
Okay,
1 hour. The
that's
standard
valid.
1 hour when I don't get a
It
get
is
a
the
response.
standard. Yeah, after an hour you can
I don't know if
respond
it
and
was
be
quite
like
an
good
hour.
But also the question is how many courts were going on yesterday during that hour?
Yeah, true.
Oh, so it was yesterday?
Yes.
Oh,
He
no.
waits till
no,
last minute every
no,
time.
I'm sorry, Sheriff. Yesterday was crazy.
It
I
was.
mean,
Look,
crazy.
I know they're trying to pack a week's worth of court into 2 days because it's Thanksgiving week, but still, I'm a little bit hurt. a little bit,
Well, then how many phone calls did you get after that from me?
like 5,
Okay.
maybe
So I
5.
made up for it.
Well, anyway, I sent him a text earlier or no, was it from you, Jesse, or was it from Brittany that said, so is there anything in
That was
particular
me.
that you want us to discuss? And I said, not really. I mean, but if you wanted to.
Here's these 10 topics.
Also, we got 10 topics today. That's great. Sometimes we come in here
We
and we got
can
2.
talk about this and this and this. Hey, there was one time we didn't have nothing and he wasn't here and it was just me and Blake for 15 minutes.
And I walked in, it was crickets. You couldn't hear nothing.
Well, we was about to rip the show. I'm talking just
We
blow
planned
it out
out
of
in
the water.
5
We had a
minutes. We
plan,
had it.
and then John walked in. It was like,
Then he
all
messed
right,
it all
plan
up.
B. It's all good. So what 10 topics do we got? I'm curious to find this out.
I don't remember. This week is such a, I just chased my tail. You ever seen a dog chase his tail? I just goes around and around and around and around. I never catches it. That's me this week. And I'm trying to get myself freed up so tomorrow, we can do the Thanksgiving thing. And then, I've got some time over the weekend maybe to enjoy friends and family. But I got a big family. And I don't want to say luckily, but kind of luckily, not a lot of them are coming to town this week. So it's going to be a small crowd.
Hey, I know I know how you feel. I've got 39 nieces and nephews.
I don't have to entertain.
Right.
I have one niece.
Sometimes you run away instead of running.
That's all I
to.
got.
Right. You need a vacation after
Correct.
vacation.
Yes, absolutely.
But talking about court, tell us a little bit, Brittany, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how long you've been with the DA's office, and a quick bio.
So I am Brittany Spears. I'm Assistant District Attorney here in Lawrence County. I handle primarily general sessions and juvenile court. With that, I kind of get the cases that start out and move them through the court system as I can, speak with law enforcement, answer questions they may have any time of the day. I have been with the DA's office total for a little over 5 years. However, I've only been a prosecutor for a little over a year.
What'd you do before you become a prosecutor?
I worked in the child support division of the DA's office.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, I bet
didn't
that
know
was entertaining.
Yes. I was there for 4 years, all through law school, so.
Well, see, Molly actually worked in the district somewhere, not here, somewhere else, and she did something with child support, and she said it was very entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, you just started, right? Didn't you just start last year?
Well, I started here in Lawrence County last year. I was in Giles County as a prosecutor for 4 years before that. And then I practiced in Jackson for 5 years before that. So I've been an attorney for about 10 years.
Oh, okay. I play golf with her dad, like every Sunday.
Yep.
Oh, good. And that's the one that lives out Henderville area.
Yep, out in Red Hill.
Yes, yes. Nice fella. I've met him before.
So I
Great
prosecuted
dude,
with
not
Jesse.
the best golfer, and he's probably
Don't
going to
tell him
watch.
that.
That's
Yeah,
rude.
I mean, just throwing that out
Goodness,
there.
this is on
I'm gonna be
radio.
real.
Could have
He's
pressed
gonna watch
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
His daughter
I know,
is
that's the
over
reason
here.
why I'm saying
Oh
that.
my
You're definitely going to be in
gosh.
trouble Sunday.
Yeah, there goes a vote. I know whose campaign
Sir,
sign won't be
whoever you
recorded.
are,
I
we
hope-
think that you're a better golfer than the sheriff.
I owed him that because I think he got in my pocket like for a $2 birdie or something last time we played. So I'm telling on myself because I do gamble a little bit on the golf course, not much, but just a little bit. But I'm pretty sure he got in my pocket last time we played together. So I owed him that. He had that coming. So what's new with some state laws? I know I had Kip Capley on here a month ago, and we
It did.
talked
It's been
about
way longer than a month ago.
Yeah,
It was whenever
couple of months.
after they had that special session.
yeah, that's right.
It's
That's
been a
right.
while ago.
It's been a while ago, but we talked a little bit about laws coming up. What's the latest on some court opinions and some laws that we're seeing here in Lawrence County that we're dealing with?
Well, probably one of the biggest things that we were glad to see this last session was that they sort of started addressing the fentanyl issue and bumped up that to a B felony for resale cases.
Okay.
So we're glad to sort of start seeing increased punishment there because it's just affecting so many people.
Now do they break that down by weight like they do the meth laws?
They do. They essentially added it to the meth statute. for resale cases. So the over 0.5 grams addresses cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl now.
Good.
Yes, for
Good.
over 0.5 grams.
Also, I heard something yesterday that fentanyl is now in liquid form too. Have y'all seen any of that?
I don't know if we've seen it in any other form, a powder form.
But
If
I
we
mean,
had,
I don't know if I read that on an article or if somebody told me, but I
Maybe.
believe that it's in liquid now.
So I don't see why it couldn't be. Just the same with, methamphetamine, primarily in the manufacturing. When meth is created, made, manufactured, whatever you want to say, it's in liquid form, and then they convert it from a liquid to a solid. So I could see where that might start to be a hot topic now because liquids.
That's terrifying.
Well, the thing about it, liquids are harder to detect while in transport.
Mhm.
You open up a Ziploc bag or a box and you've got 5,000 pill looking items and that's going to get your attention. But if you've got 2 milk jugs with a clear liquid that has Forest Spring water on it, that's going to be easier.
Did you see, and I don't mean to jump
Yeah,
off
this.
topic, I saw this news story and I can't remember, it was on one of the big news stations, but it was one of the largest fentanyl pill seizures ever. And they were showing, they were in boxes of candy was in one way that they was transported because it looked just like the candy.
It's
And then the other
terrible.
one was the Downy, the what you put in your washer. What's it called? The Downy
Like
Unstop.
fabric softener?
Yeah, called Unstop. What's it called? Help me out. It's you sprinkle. I use it in
Yeah,
my
it's
laundry.
the
You sprinkle-
Unstoppables.
It's the little blue.
Yeah.
And that's what was
Mhm.
in those. So at first glance, you look, tell me that's not smart.
Right.
It's all the substance is supposed to be in there's blue. So if you look at it and you see it, well, yeah, that is what it is. But it's fentanyl pills. Is that not crazy?
It is. It's
How they
crazy.
come up with these ideas
And
to
synthetics are just
to
taking
move it.
off. I mean, the dope game has changed more in the past 5 years than it has for me in the past 20. It's just, and you've been in it longer than me. You know what I'm talking about.
I've never seen a trend. I've never seen a trend that moved as fast as what we've been seeing, like over the past 5, 6, 7 years. But it's good that our state legislation has stepped up and really. Now are those mandatory? Let's talk about mandatory sentencing. Is there mandatory sentences on this?
Or is it just meth?
As far as to serve sentences, not yet. I think it was something that was considered, and maybe we'll see that out of the next session. I think that's something they're definitely going to address, but not yet.
Well, Cameron Sexton came this past week to town, our speaker, and he stopped in the office for it was a great conversation for like 45 minutes. And we talked about this, and he wanted some ideas for me about what he thought we needed. And that was a big thing that I was pushing. We need mandatory sentencing. Not that I don't have any faith in our judges, but I think you just limit what they can do with these ranges. And that's something I don't understand. So break down how we range offenders.
Yeah, so essentially, you range felony offenders predominantly, although even in misdemeanors, a criminal history is considered. But for felony cases, you choose their range. We have range 1, 2, 3, and then a career offender. And their range depends on what their criminal history is. So there are very specific statutes. It's a little more detailed, but typically a range 1 offender is someone who has, 1 to 2 criminal offenses, and then you start bumping up. The more criminal offenses, felony offenses you have, the higher your range becomes. Until by the time you have, 6 or so felony offenses, you're up at a career offender, which bumps up how long you serve before you can get parole. It also bumps up the total number of years that you can get, depending on what range you're in.
I think most people, normal blue collar citizen, Lawrence County citizens out there they have no idea how complicated the sentencing, is it just in Tennessee or is it all over the country? I mean, does Tennessee have, and I'm not saying anything negative about our judicial system, but I think it's tough on a victim when they have to sit there and listen to the sentencing statutes, like you said,
Mhm.
and it talks about how to range them and what percentage of the time they can do. I wish we could just go back to say, if they're only going to do 3 years, let's just give them 3 years day for day.
Well, just sitting here being
What, before you say that, and I get passionate about this when I talk about it. Sorry, I'm not meaning to be hard to get along with, but where do we change this? How do we change this? How can the people in this state change the sentencing laws where the bad guy or the violator gets what he's supposed to get and he has to do the time for that sentence?
Yeah, we're starting to see a shift in that direction right now in the legislature. In fact, this past session of things that became effective in July, they upped the percentage that you have to serve for quite a few offenses, really, where you have to serve 100% of it, or you have to serve at least 85% of it before you become eligible for parole. So I think that is probably one of the most frustrating things for us as prosecutors is, one, it's really hard to get what we would call a 2-serve sentence where the offender has to serve the entire thing under our sentencing scheme. But then once we get a 2-serve sentence, they kick them right back out on parole. And then you're looking at parole violations.
It's just
So
as frustrating for us.
Yes.
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Blake. What
And
was
Going on that, even in this last session, they actually added a mandatory to serve on the aggravated assaults when it involves strangulation. So we are seeing a move toward that to kind of show the victims that we are there and there is repercussions for their actions.
Yeah,
So
and
if
a
you're
lot of-
listening and you're going to go home and rough up your wife, don't choke her, Blake.
Oh, listen, let's just get one thing straight. My wife grew up in Piney.
Blake ain't getting away with nothing in that house.
He'll start out as the offender and then be the victim.
Yeah, she'll call dispatch.
We need to tell Mrs.
We don't need an
Groom she don't
ambulance.
need to be strangling
Go ahead and
nobody.
tell Neil Funeral Home to come on over. Yeah, she don't play. Gosh, she's mean.
What was you
Stop
gonna
it,
say
don't
before-
say that about her.
What
She is a nice lady.
What was you going to say before I cut you off? I'm sorry.
So, when Jesse was describing the criteria to go from a range 1 to a career criminal, right off the bat, the thing that jumped out to me the most is like, now if you have 6 felonies over here, then, we would be looking probably at a career offender. And, the average Joe citizen out here on the street is like, you mean to tell me this guy can commit 6, serious felony, law violations before we start to, categorize him as a career offender? That's messed up. And you know what? My professional and personal opinion, I think that's messed up. I don't think you should, have the opportunity to go out here and mess up 6 times before we can title you as a career offender.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, most of the time it's not up to our DA's office. Personally, from what I've seen in the courtroom, these 2 ladies right here will hammer your tail, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even blinking, not hammer your tail if they can do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Y'all's hands are tied just like our hands are tied on some stuff. So how much does sentencing play into plea agreements when y'all are talking to the defense attorneys about a plea agreement?
A lot. A
Yeah.
whole lot.
Very much so.
Because at the end of the day, you have to consider what they could get if they went to trial, and consider that when you're trying to plea bargain with them. So, if you know they're going to get 100% sentence, you can really, I guess, go harder or have a stronger negotiating position. Whereas if it's a presumed probatable crime, then, they're never going to accept a 2-serve sentence if they know that it's a presumed paradable crime. So you really do have to consider all the sentencing statutes in plea negotiations.
And that's where y'all's criminal minds, that's where y'all's criminal minds pay off, because that'd be over my head. I mean, if they come to me and said, well, let's make a deal, I said, let's not. Have you ever been so comfortable with a case that the defense came and said, hey, let's talk about a plea agreement, and y'all looked at him and said, no.
And Brittany did it yesterday. As a matter of fact, on a case that I got called in to testify that I didn't have anything to do with. Yeah, Brittany's like, no, we're good to go, and I'm not making him a deal.
Well, what'd she want you there for if you didn't have nothing to do? But well, hang on, let's ask her.
He was actually just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Happens to me all the time.
He was there on a separate case, and he was in the courtroom when I was handling this case, so I called him to the stand to talk about M30s a little bit.
Dirty 30s.
Oh yeah, the
Judge, I'm
the
not
seven.
gonna
What are
mention-
they? $7 fentanyl pills.
I mean, yeah, that's what they could be, I guess. But there was a particular judge that was not as familiar with the counterfeit pills as other judges are, and nothing to him. It's just, it's still new to some people. And Brittany called me to the stand to just give a little explanation, a little clarity, and it was after I got through. One of the first things I asked Brittany was, "So what'd you offer?" And she's like, "I didn't offer my thing. We've got him, and I think he needs to take his medicine." And
Nice.
by golly, that's what he did. So good job
So
to
his
her.
case was bound over to the next session, or to the grand jury.
So when they come, let's talk a little bit about the grand jury process. So I found this out through a third party, and I guess it's true. And what this will do is it'll shed a little light on our court system. We have 2 courts. I mean, we have sessions and circuit. That's all over the state, right?
Yeah, criminally, yes.
So this guy got a DUI, and it got thrown out in sessions court for a technicality. And he was indicted through the grand jury process and had to make another bail on a new indictment. So explain that. Explain how that works and why our system is like that.
So at the general sessions level, we put on as much proof as we have just to determine probable cause, and sometimes that proof may not be where it needs to be. If the judge does not find probable cause at that point, we can go back into our offices and kind of look at it and see, is this something that we do have probable cause? We maybe just didn't have it that day. And if so, we will try to take it to the grand jury. And then let them determine whether or not they think there's probable cause. Then it would come out in circuit court where General Parrish can work on it.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, when we say we don't have probable cause that day, we have the proof. It's just sometimes witnesses aren't available, or you can't, somebody's gone out of town or something, and you can't get someone physically in court on the day that you have to have them in sessions court. And it moves quite quickly now. So it may just be that someone wasn't available to testify in sessions court when we needed them. And it dismissed. It's not that, we go
Right.
fix it later. Or anything
Or
like
maybe
that.
as simple as, the officer didn't have much as far as on the side of the road, but he had enough probable cause to go get a search warrant for the suspected drunk driver's blood, and it take 6-8 months for that blood to come back, and may not have that come time for a prelim.
Now will this guy's attorney have any argument when it comes to when he's on the docket for circuit court, when the first time they go in front of the judge and they meet with y'all and they say, well, I mean, it's not been dismissed once.
Well, I mean, they'll say it, but it doesn't really, it doesn't really have much as long as you do, in fact, have the case that you need to have to prosecute. That it doesn't typically affect your case moving forward.
Yes. What else did I ask y'all about? What else did I have in that text message? Seizures? Is there any? And Blake probably knows more about this than I do, because I'm kind of a little bit behind the times on some of our seizure laws or anything. But we're having our seizure, aren't we having our seizure hearings locally now at
We are.
the Highway Patrol office?
Charles.
And are y'all involved in that in any way?
We are
No.
not.
No.
Can y'all be?
Yes.
In some situations, yes. Yeah.
So for example, if you take Joe Drug Dealer's car because he delivered a pound of dope in it and he's fighting trying to get it back, that case will be heard here?
So yes and no. And
Is
you
it-
jump in here anytime. Okay, so the training that I've had is I pull Bill over. Bill's got 8,000 fentanyl pills and text messages all over his phone where, I mean, he's just been slinging, okay? What I do, I take Bill's car, I take Bill's money, I take Bill's phone, I seize his stuff, right? First thing I have to do is issue Bill a notice of seizure for his vehicle, for his money, everything that I'm taking civilly,
Mhm.
okay? And I'm going to immediately put that in through the state on the civil side of life.
Yeah.
Now, I can keep it in the civil side of life, but one thing that we've talked to General Cooper about and Christie about, and I don't know if I've sat down with Jesse, I can't remember, but as far as bringing it into the criminal side of life, what you would do then is indict the car and indict the cash just like you would a person for a crime, and then you can bring it from the civil side of life to the criminal side of life. And on the prosecution standpoint, I think it would make our lives a little bit easier. But then at that time, as soon as it's adopted criminally, then we notify the state, hey, this has been adopted. You know, you can forget about things on the civil side. Am I close?
Yes. And it's just a matter of, I guess, which way you want to go. A lot of times when we adopt it on the criminal side, it makes sense because you present your whole case together, the forfeiture and the whatever the case may be. It just takes a little longer that way, but yes, that's
Now,
correct.
I have kept it in the criminal side of life just because I knew that they didn't have an attorney and they showed up themselves to the hearing, or they were going to show up to the hearing themselves, and everything they say would be admissible in the court. So yeah, that I've done that before, and it's
But now,
great.
so what happens if you take Joe Drug Dealer's money and you don't find any drugs or paraphernalia, but you have enough probable cause to seize his money? Do we not have to give him notice of a hearing that we have locally?
Yes. So if I take your stuff and I don't arrest you, state law says I have 45 days to get you or let you have the opportunity to speak with the judge for a forfeiture warrant hearing. Okay. So like, let's say I take your stuff and I arrest you. I don't have to notify you of when that forfeiture warrant hearing is going to be because I made an arrest. I issued you your notice. The state says I have successfully.
But you don't have a hearing locally for that.
I do, but Bill doesn't have to attend. If I don't arrest Bill, but I take his stuff because I believe that it's proceeds from illegal drug transactions, I have 45 days. I have to issue Bill another piece of paper that says between 20 and 45 days, a hearing is going to be on this day at 1 o'clock for the courts to determine whether or not I've got probable cause to retain your stuff because I believe it's proceeds for illegal drug transactions. And then they show up. They don't have to show up. I state my case. They state their case. And then the judge makes a ruling whether or not there's probable cause for the seizure. Then after that, there is, on the civil side of life, an administrative hearing to 100% determine whether or not I get to keep it or we have to return it. And a lot of times we make deals on the civil side of seizures, just like the generals here make deals as far as sending somebody to prison.
Yeah, we did it all the time back in the day, and they were a lot easier. Doing a civil settlement on a drug seizure was a lot easier. I mean, it was a handwritten agreement that everybody signed off on, and then you did the deal right then, and it was signed. I remember that because we see 17 grand off of the interstate, and the guy's attorney and a well-known elected official from the county that he lived in showed up at the task force office like 2 hours later and was ready to do a civil settlement. So I think we kept 10 and gave him 7 or something. something along the lines like
Good.
that. But yeah, we did. It worked out
That's a
pretty
good day on the
good. Worked out pretty good.
So that's seizures. What else we got?
You remember? Do I have to pull the text up?
Yeah,
I
you've
think
got
you
that
asked us
fence.
about renters.
Renters. There
Yeah.
you go, Jackson. Hey, let me tell you something. If I get a phone call, at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday, there's a really good chance it's either about the neighbor's dogs or some rental houses or trailers or property that they're behind on the rent and they don't want to leave, and the landowner is calling me because he thinks I can go down there and put a pistol to their head and
This
say
is
pack your
great.
stuff and leave.
It's like the new preacher that comes to town for the revival. Everybody's sitting, on the front row. So y'all about to bring it, because I'm telling you, this is something that we deal with day in, day out. So the floor is yours. Tell them how it is.
Explain it. Let's hear it. How do you, if you're a landowner,
Mhm.
how do you get your renter out off the property?
Well, I guess it depends on if there's a lease agreement or not. If
Okay.
there's a lease agreement, it's gonna be civil. At that point, you're gonna need to contact civil, a civil
follow.
attorney to try to get the assistance there. Now, if they're not, if there's not a lease, and you have revoked consent for them to be there, then they can be told to leave and law enforcement can assist in that.
Okay, so it's Thanksgiving.
He's heated up.
Let's throw some scenarios there.
It's Thanksgiving. Everybody comes over to the house to eat turkey. My cousin is like, "Hey, Blake, I got a job interview. I don't want to drive back to Nashville. Can I crash on your couch tomorrow so I don't have to drive all the way back down here?" And I'm like, "Sure, Bill. You can crash on my couch." 3 weeks later, Bill's still on my couch. And I'm asking him to leave, and he's like, "Listen, I've got my Social Security check being mailed here now. I've got Sports Illustrated being mailed here now, and I paid you $40 to help you out on your light bill last week. Do I have to have Bill evicted, or can I tell him to get out of my house?"
I would say you can tell him to get out of your house. There's no lease.
There you go. That right there is probably one of the biggest
So
scenarios.
what
that we see.
changed? Because used to, if Bill had established an address at that house, then he had a legal right to stay there. So what changed?
Well, see, that's what
And
we
how
were
did it
told for years. But it's my understanding that has not necessarily agreed with the law, right? Because
No,
Bill,
something changed because I remember getting something from y'all's office a year or two ago.
well, that was from Gary.
Gary Howe?
Yes, and because again, we've always had problems with this, and I think that's when Gary laid out, in writing pretty much what they've said today is, if you have somebody in your house that is not on the lease, that is not subleased on the lease, they are considered a guest and could be asked to leave at any time. And as the guest, you're taking that chance.
Well, there still has to be a time. There still has to be a time there. I mean, what if he's been there 3 years instead of 3 weeks? I mean, there has.
Essentially, I mean, you have to look at sort of common sense things. Are they paying rent? Do they have a written rental agreement? Do they have one of those agreements of, if you'll repair my house, we'll stay there rent free? Like, is there an actual type of structured lease agreement in that way? And if not, then they don't have a legal right to the property.
What about a verbal agreement? Not worth nothing?
That wouldn't be for us to determine.
So we can't call you on Sunday at 3 o'clock on that one?
Okay, I've got an easier one. One that's also common. A lady finds out, a guy finds out that his girlfriend's cheating. She's been living in his house for 3 years. He pays the bills, but she's been living there. Her name's not on the light bill. Her name's not on the lease. She doesn't pay any of the bills, but she's lived there 3 years. He finds out she's cheating. He tells her, "You got to go." She says no. We get called. As far as the DA's office is concerned, what do we tell girlfriend?
Who wants to take a stab?
Well, So if you called me and asked me that, I would ask you, of course, is there any kind of agreement where she pays any kind of rent or anything? If not, everything's in his name, it's his house, and he tells her to leave at that point, consent to stay there is revoked and she would need to leave.
Preach. I love this. So glad y'all came here. Lawrence County, I hope you're listening. They are helping you out today.
All right, so if they have established that there's a lease agreement, and so now we're talking about civilly.
Yes.
Now we talked to them and said, look, you're going to have to go up to the circuit court clerk's office and talk to them and try to get what's called a bench warrant or a civil warrant or something against them to get them in front of the general sessions judge, right?
Yep, they've got to start the eviction proceedings,
So
yes.
does that start with a 30-day notice to the renter, a written notice? Because we've been telling them that. I've been telling them that. First you got to give them written notice 30 days prior, because that's what they're going to ask. And when you go up to the circuit court clerk's office, the clerk is going to say, do you have proof where you've given them notice, 30 days notice to vacate the premises?
We don't handle that part of evictions. We don't get involved in evictions proceedings. And it's been a long time since I did that in private practice. So I would hate to misstate the law in that area.
So it's my understanding that once you show that you've given 30 days notice, then they can issue a civil warrant against the renter and set them a court date. And then they come in and they have to explain to the judge why they haven't vacated the premises. And then normally, correct me if I'm wrong, the judge usually gives them another day or 2 days or
Patty
a
used to
week.
give them 14 more days. Like if she's saying no, they have to get out. They need to be evicted. She would generally give them 2 more
And
weeks. I don't know
then
what the standard
if
is.
they still haven't vacated the premises, and I found this out not long ago, and I may be wrong, but I think I'm right, that if they still haven't vacated the premises after the judge gave them 10 days, the property owner has to come back and get a writ.
It's my understanding.
And that gives us the authority to go help them move.
That's correct.
I don't understand why, if the judge has told them that they have 10 days to vacate the premises and they're still there, that should automatically be contempt, right? And that should be good enough. The judge should be able to sign off saying, go move them off the property.
Well, because
I don't understand why they got to spend more money.
I think then it would be a contempt of court, which is civil between that person and the court. It wouldn't be criminal for us to get involved. And that's why they have to go back and get the writ. Am I right?
Right. The writ is literally an order to law enforcement to go help. Sort of the evolution of property law is pretty interesting, but it typically talks to law enforcement through writs.
And a lot of people think that we can physically remove people and their belongings off the property. We don't.
Right.
We'll go make sure you do, but we're not going to bring 20 volunteers to come get Joe laid on his rent off the property. Don't work like that.
Right. And I'm glad it doesn't work like that.
No, I'm telling you. So if you can give any advice to a property owner that's thinking about renting out his grandma's house that just passed away, what can you tell them?
I would say be intentional. I would say have a very structured lease agreement. Even most sort of big rental companies even do things like, recommendations and stuff that you have to give for renters. So I would just put forth a lot of caution in how you rent, how you structure your lease agreement, and go from there.
Gotcha. Just some handy information, y'all. Y'all are taking some of the workload off of me and Captain over there, I believe.
This show's going to be getting some views. They're going to be showing this in high school.
Get some views. All right.
Um,
So what did y'all bring with you? It looks like a test.
They're printed statutes.
Okay.
Yep,
All
we
right.
printed off, this is actually the statute that talks about fentanyl becoming a B felony. And then I printed out one for Brittany that talks about hemp versus THC.
Well, let's go into that because we've been dealing with that a lot lately.
So when we go do an undercover purchase with an underage minor and they make a purchase, an underage alcohol purchase, and we go back and we cite the clerk, walk us through that process. And how do y'all determine the punishment, and does the business owner bear any responsibility?
So obviously, y'all learned today, Jesse has a lot more experience than I do. So I will take a shot at this, and then she may have to pick up on it.
All right, let me pull a switchblade on that.
So of course we would look to the statute as far as contributing to an underage or selling to an underage minor in that, and determine what the statute allows us to do as far as punishment goes, and then I would address it accordingly. As far as the courts, as with the clerk is, in that scenario, the clerk is where we would prosecute from our office. But I think there are other avenues that allow even the store owner to have some kind of consequence for this happening within their store.
Yeah, so, is it whether the clerk just on their own made the decision to sell to a minor or didn't follow procedures, or is this something that has been knowingly done or instructed to be done by the owner? So really, as in all areas of criminal law, you have to look at knowledge. So most of our statutes require knowing, reckless, or intentional, depending on what statute you're looking at. So, you're always looking at whether you can prove they had knowledge of something, or whether they did it intentionally. So all of those things we have to sort of dig a little deeper, especially as to owners, what knowledge they have of what's going on.
Isn't there something in that TCA on sale to an underage minor where it talks about that their beer permit can be pulled?
Sure. And that sort of happens outside the arena of criminal prosecution. But yes, absolutely. If you're having issues like this and it's not just an isolated incident or an accident or something like that, it can definitely affect their ability to continue to sell tobacco, beer, whatever the issue is.
So would that, and I would suspect it would come in the form of maybe a letter or a request from y'all's office to the whatever beer board they got their beer permit from, requesting them to pull it?
It could.
It could, right. It could sort of come through different mechanisms depending on who's involved and what's going on with the case. But yes, it could.
So I used to do the compliance checks with ABC, and generally, what would happen from what I've seen is, yes, the clerk that facilitated the transaction to the minor would get cited into court, and then the DA's office would take care of that. Then ABC would make a move and generally fine the store or store owner. I think it was around $1,500, and then the state would send them notice. Okay, we spanked your hands. We don't want to spank your hands again, because I think the second time is when you can have your license revoked. But with that being said, with the way some of our state laws are, it's a headache. Some of them are a joke. And for goodness sakes, there are some convicted felons out there that can obtain a liquor license. But Mary Jane, who's a school teacher over here at Lawrence County High School, who has nothing on her record because she's a public employee, she's prohibited from obtaining a liquor license. So that world is highly, highly complicated.
And that's her name? That's her name, Mary Jane?
Mary Jane, I don't know. I don't just, it wasn't Bill, But
What
yes,
Joe drug deal?
as far as the owner goes, the state generally puts them on notice instead of the DA's office.
I get you. Well, I've already contacted both our city beer board and our county beer board. We done some compliance checks a while back and made some undercover purchases. Now, the difference between what is the difference between alcohol and tobacco? What's the difference in the punishment? Because we're seeing, a kid goes out and buys some alcohol, you know what's going to happen. A kid goes out and buys one of these THC vapes, you don't know what's going to happen because we all know how dangerous they are. Are we looking at maybe getting some laws in place? Are y'all hearing anything about the THC vapes? Because I mean, we had 2 overdosing in our high school last year because they're not consistent, they're not regulated. Nobody's keeping up with how potent they are. So where are we at on that? I mean, is it the same if a kid goes and buys a THC vape in regards to a pack of Marlboro Lights? I mean,
Yeah, so I haven't heard recently any sort of bigger discussions, I should say, about changes in the law in that area, about changing its penalty. Since it's illegal here, we certainly aren't, regulating THC vapes or anything like that. So that is certainly a concern, and maybe the legislature will look at that soon.
I hope so, because we have some problems.
Mhm.
We've got several stores in this state that are advertising their stuff to be under, the 0.03 threshold, and it's obviously not. Like you said, not only is the bulk of this industry not regulated, the products that are being sold in these stores don't have a smidgen of regulation within themselves before they come here, so they can advertise all day long that my product's going to be, under 0.03% THC, and then you pop a test on it, and you're literally looking at 35% THC, and you're like, you can't even buy weed right now that's good. That is that good.
we wonder why a 17-year-old that's never smoked one, tried one, stops their heart, and you got to call the ambulance, come out there to high school.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think they just need. I don't know. We have to do something. There's too much leeway with CBD and hemp right now. We're going to have to cap it. In my opinion. Let me ask you, Blake. What do you think? What do you think if we just cap? Ohio just legalized recreational marijuana. What do you think if we just legalize marijuana right now, THC, all of it, and say it cannot be higher than 8% THC? If you're caught with any product, a vape, any kind of marijuana, anything, gummies, brownies, whatever, and if it's tested over, and if it comes back hotter than 8%, then you're subject to an arrest.
All right, so according from the last training that I've had, according to the state of Colorado, for every $1 the state of Colorado has made on recreational marijuana, they've spent 11 fixing problems. You look at California, you look at Oregon and stuff like that. The legalization of marijuana has brought in more problems than it has helped. They've looked at incarcerations, have not went down. They've actually went up. You look at, they also looked at job loss and jobs created. There was a dip there. So from what I understand, and we just had this at the Tennessee Narcotics Officers Association 2 weeks ago, when it comes to legalizing marijuana, they can put proof on paper that shows it hurts more than it helps. And at the end of the day, it's a gateway drug. I don't care if you're dealing with a coke head, a meth head, any guy that we encounter out here that is a career user and abuser of drugs, you've got a 95% chance when you ask them, hey, what's the first drug you started out with? They're going to tell you marijuana. And it's not because it's the easiest drug you can get to. We all know that's a lie. You can go in grandma's cabinet and easily get drugs all day long. That's just common fact. So my personal opinion, if we've already legalized marijuana. If you look at it, with the CBD and hemp stuff, we've already said, okay, it's legal to have THC. You just can't have it above 0.03. And look at all the problems we've had thus far.
I'm making you nervous flipping this
You're
switchblade
fine.
over
It's
here.
actually going to be above a 0.3%.
It's going to be above
Yes, so concentration not more than 0.3%, so 0.3%.
Well, I'm sorry, I said 0.03. I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
I threw the zero in there, but again, we have 3%, and I promise you, if you go in some of these stores, you're going to see stuff that's above it.
Well, practicing in the juvenile court area, this is something that has become an issue as far as vapes and having the THC in the vapes. And they are buying it from the stores, but the juveniles are also getting charged with it. So they're also having to come to court. Parents are having to come with them. And then here in Lawrence County, we actually have a couple classes that we have been utilizing to be able to send the kids to make them understand why, like, this isn't something you need to be doing, you know, and what can you do versus smoking the vapes or the THC vapes or whatever it is, just to kind of help them get away from it. So hopefully that helps. But yes,
Well,
it's definitely becoming an issue.
The Sheriff's Association, I'm sure the Chiefs Association is doing their part up on the Hill, trying to get some stuff done.
All
We're
right,
about out of time.
Have you
Let's-
joined that board yet? The
No,
legislation board?
no.
When you gonna start that?
Hopefully next month.
Fantastic.
Hopefully next month.
How much time we got, Manny?
We got like.
You have 5 minutes.
Like 5 minutes. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the Christmas stuff we got going, but before we wrap it up, anything y'all want to add, anything that y'all can think of that needs to be put out to the listeners about y'all's, when I texted your boss and asked him about permission for y'all to come over, he said, yeah, as long as they do this. I didn't know if y'all talked to him or not.
We were in court until like almost 7 o'clock last night, so no.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
We
right.
didn't talk to him.
Well, then it's not my
Yeah.
fault then, if y'all didn't get the memo. It's not my fault. All right, perfect.
One thing I would caution on, I know it's a big issue here in Lawrence County, the dogs at large. We get those cases. I know y'all get those calls. I know people get upset about it. It is a fine only offense here in the state of Tennessee. So when you're coming to court on those cases, it's ultimately going to be a fine only offense, no matter if it's a C, a B, or an A misdemeanor, depending on if there's any injuries or not. So just know that in the back of your head when you're calling out law enforcement. And I'm not sure that we really have many shelters here that can help assist getting those dogs off the roadway. If there are, I would greatly love to get some insight on that, because I could refer some people to those.
You can't say nothing.
I can't even mention that.
And so don't expect the death penalty,
Correct.
when you're in court up there over, your neighbor's dog tearing up your landscape.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well,
And don't expect to be out in an hour either. So that's what we run into a lot is court. Just like Brittany said, is yesterday we had 2 courts going on, and both of them lasted until 7 o'clock at night, and we started at either 8:30 or 9, depending on where you were. So they are long days. So
And
we're
we are going nonstop from the time even the time we wake up. Sometimes we start getting phone calls or text
that's
messages,
true.
and we're going nonstop until the end of the day. So we're working as diligently as possible. There's just a lot of moving factors.
I
in the
jumped
system.
off the stand with her. I picked up my folder and I ran downstairs because it was like 6 minutes after 1, and I got a text from, what's the young lady's name, dark-headed girl in y'all's office? She's named
Allie.
Allie. Sorry, Allie. Got a text from Allie. You're testifying at 1, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was great.
So we generate the cases for y'all most of the time,
Yes.
and then y'all get to reap the rewards of all of our hard work. But we do, we appreciate it, and we know y'all hustle. I've seen it, and I know everybody else in law enforcement seen it. They see how hard y'all work. Real quick, Christmas. Before, yeah, go ahead.
What? No, you've been interrupting me all
No,
day.
this
Go
is
ahead.
something. No. You go ahead. I'm gonna save that for last.
Okay, so like we've been, telling everybody about all week long. So not too long ago, I had an encounter with Santa, and I'm not going to go into details with that. But long story short, I was explaining how all these kids are writing letters to him. He ain't writing nobody back. So he said he would change that, and even gave us a mailbox to set up at the police department where youngins can bring in a letter to Santa along with a envelope with a return address. You write your letter to Santa, and Santa will handwrite you a letter back.
Oh, that's cool.
That's it's special to us. We like seeing youngins come in, get into the holiday spirit. But just as important, we like seeing youngins not be afraid to come to the police department, not being afraid to being around a cop. Because at the end of the day, besides parents, and teachers, I don't know too many others out there that love kids as much as police.
There you go.
So yes, bring your youngins. Lawrenceburg Police Department, 233 West Gain Street, across the street from the courthouse. In the front lobby, you'll see all the decorations and the mailbox for Santa Claus.
And ours, we will Monday. Make sure you tune in Monday at 2:30ish, right?
On 97.5 WLX.
On 97.5
Mhm.
WLX, because I'm going to be on there and I'm going to be soliciting money for our Shop with the Sheriff thing that we do every year, and that is going to be the 21st of December. But we're going to stop taking up donations December 1.
Mhm.
So in the meantime, if you want to donate, just call 762-3626. Tell the girl that answers the phone that you want to donate to the Shop with the Sheriff, and she'll put you in the right direction. She'll get you in
So
contact.
just like the
with her.
cancer drive, let's say somebody calls up and says, "Hey, I want to drop $1,000 for your cause." What are you willing to do, Sheriff?
So here's what I'm thinking.
And pink hair ain't going to get it.
It's not going to be pink. I think the plan, and we got to talk a little bit about the plan for Monday, but if I think I'm going to try it. Our goal is going to be $5,000 this year.
Okay.
That's what we want to raise for this Shop with the Sheriff thing. I think last year we done 35, 37, 3,800 bucks or something. So I'm going to try to get as much money as I can to come through Monday. And if we hit whatever number that we decide we're going to put out there, then I'm going to dye my hair like maybe green and red or something, and wear it the day that we do the Shop with the Sheriff. I'm not dressing up like an elf because I'm pretty sure that's what that look on your face is indicating. I'm not wearing
Why
freaking
not?
20 ears.
I'm not
And
asking
I'm
you
not
to wear a
going to wear
dress.
any bells on my shoes. It's not happening. I'll dye my hair red and pink. I mean, not red and pink, red and green. That's what I'm thinking. That's what. And before we leave, I really want to see you comb that hair with this comb. Since
Okay.
look at that. Have you noticed his hair?
I know,
It's
I need
got
a
like this
haircut.
moist look on top. Come on.
I had to do
Come
something.
on, you can
with it.
do it.
Sheriff, I will go out and say, off of what Blake said about law enforcement loving kids, you've got an SRO in one of the schools right now who truly does love children, and he is trying to make a difference. Not only has he been overseas and maybe going back out overseas, he is in the school trying to make a difference in the children's lives.
I think
And
I know
that'll-
which one you're talking
Yes.
about, without saying his name. I'm so thankful we got those guys.
Yes.
I mean, and I know everybody out in the community that's got kids in school. They appreciate it. It takes a certain type of law enforcement officer to do that job.
It does, and that world has changed, and we've talked about it. Used to, that's where retired, police went to, kind of coast out their career. But we've seen we need good cops, we need competent cops, we need tactical cops in our school because our children are our greatest asset. So yeah, you guys do a good job. Do a real good job.
All right on. Jesse, Brittany, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
We'll have to do it again in a
Thank you
week
for
or
all your
two.
work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Everybody
Maddie,
say bye.
Appreciate y'all.
Maddie, thank you for all your hard work.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Captain,
Happy
everybody have a
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir. See you. Bye.